Hey guys, here's the next video in the series. We're going to be talking about everyone's favourite topic, refeed or spike days. So what is a refeed or spike day? Refeed or spike day is a high calorie day which is used to stabilise your hormones to provide an environment that maximises fat burning. You mean like a cheat meal? No. Psychologically, cheating gives you the wrong impression of what you're doing. You think that it's okay to cheat on your diet. That is certainly not the case. What we're actually doing is a scientifically proven method of fat loss, and certain protocols must be followed to get the results from this type of eating. Most common question I get is, how can I get leaner by eating more? Well, this is a great example. So this is pretty sure it's 12,000 calories over here, and that's what Michael Phelps used to eat, like when he was in serious training, 12,000 calories a day. Does he look like he's someone that eats 12,000 calories a day? They actually worked out what his how many calories he would burn in the pool when he was doing his training as well, and it was nowhere near 12,000 calories that he would be burning. So obviously there has to be other things at play, and we're using the science behind how he did it to be able to eat so much food and still stay this lean and in world record beating conditions. So obviously I have your attention now, but how does it work? So we're just going to go through a little bit about it. So leptin is the main hormone that we're going to be talking about, but there's a bit of a problem with this hormone. So leptin is a hormone in the body which regulates how much fat you burn, how you burn fat and how much fat. The problem is you only burn fat if you're in a calorie deficit. So if you're using more energy than you're consuming or eating. So the longer you're in a deficit, the more your leptin levels drop. So you see we have a bit of a problem there, because you have to be in a calorie deficit for your fat to drop. But the longer you're in that deficit, then the lower your leptin levels get, and then your ability to burn fat decreases as you go along. So we're just going to show you in a second. So generally what happens is, as you're in a calorie deficit, this kind of shows you what happens to your leptin levels. So they just gradually decrease and decrease and decrease. So it just gets to a point where if you're in a calorie deficit for way too long, then your body is going to start holding on to all of your fat, because it can't just basically get rid of it. It goes into that kind of self-defense mode where it goes, all right, I'm going to have to hold on to this fat because I don't know if we're getting enough food. So that's what happened with your leptin levels. So how do we fix this? This is how we use our refeed days or spike days, and here's how it all works. So what we do is you've got a period here of over a couple of weeks. So generally what we do is we get to a point where your leptin levels have dropped to a certain point, and we increase your leptin levels by having a refeed or a spike day, with certain guidelines around it, of course, to be able to get that leptin levels back up, so you're constantly burning fat, and then when it drops down again, increase it again, and we just have that timed around certain things, depending on where you are with your body fat, where you are with your goal, and that kind of thing. So, do you qualify for a refeed? Yeah, everyone qualifies for a refeed. It's just dependent on the amount of calories and how regularly you're having them, which is dependent on your goals and your current body fat. So when should you have your refeed days? Refeed days should never be on a rest day. You should always make sure you're having it after a big session, like a leg session or a high-intensity interval session, as your metabolic demands are a lot higher, so you'll have the highest effect without any fat gain on these days. So how often should you have it? It's just going to depend on like your goals and the time that you want to achieve them in, your current body fat, and your training program. So there's all these different variables, and I'll be able to send out the guidelines around your refeed days, how regularly you should have them, how many calories you should go over, and so on. Are there any rules with your refeed days? Yeah, definitely. So we've got certain protocols that we need to follow. So the first one is making sure that you hit your fiber goals. So as we know, fiber pushes unhealthy foods through your system a lot faster, so a lot of them don't get absorbed as much. So that's the first thing that we have to do with the refeed day, is make sure we're still hitting our fiber goals primarily before we have that massive kind of refeed meal. So you just need to make sure you hit your calorie goals for the day as well. So you'll have a normal calorie goal for your normal days, but you'll also have a calorie guideline. It might be 500, 1,000, 2,000 calories over what you'll normally have, and you just need to make sure that you get to that goal, because that's going to give you the best hormonal response for where you are with your training and so on. You need to make sure you have high levels of specifically carbohydrates. So protein's going to remain the same, fat's going to generally go up a little bit, just with the increase of food, and generally people go for unhealthier options, so they get a lot more fat anyway. But we don't want to have just fat as everything for your refeed, like blow out your fat completely. We want to get heaps and heaps of carbohydrates, because that's going to give you the best impact for resetting your leptin levels. So that's what we want to do. Also, you just need to make sure you plan them ahead of time. You can't get to a day where you're like, oh, I might go over my calories today, so I'm just going to have a refeed day. It doesn't work like that. It needs to be planned ahead of time because it needs to be set out in line with your training that you're currently doing and however regularly I've set for you to have them. So if it's weekly or every 10 days or every 5 days, depending on where you are and what I set for you, you need to make sure you stick to that. Food hangovers. So this is one of the problems that we have with your refeed days. The day after your refeed day, you're probably going to feel a little bit more lethargic and probably hungry because your body wants to adjust to that new kind of calorie level that you've just consumed. So you might feel a little bit hungrier the next day, which is completely normal. With the food hangovers as well, it's just because you're not used to having so much sugar, carbohydrates, and everything like that. So it just makes you feel a little bit more lethargic, like you had a big night out on the town or something last night. It's the same kind of thing, but that's pretty natural. So this is what it should look like in your app, your MyFitnessPal here. So you can kind of see how you've got your normal calorie guidelines just going under all the way through here. And this one's a 1500 calorie spike here. So this is what it looks like. So someone here's on about 3200 calories. Come in for the 1500 calorie spike here. And then it goes back to normal for the next couple of days. So that's what we want it to look like. And overall, depending on what your goal is, chances are you're probably still going to be under calories for the week. So that's what it's going to look like. So thanks again for watching. Happy refeed days. I'm sure you're all going to love having these. But just making sure you're getting those guidelines around your refeed days, just to making sure you're getting the most results out of them. So the key things are, again, just getting in those fiber goals, hitting your calorie goal for that day as well, and making sure you're getting plenty of carbohydrates on that refeed day, and you're going to get great results from it.